I've been a human performance coach for over 30 years at the time of this recording. And when it comes to increasing the muscle's range of motion, generically referred to as flexibility, one of the quickest ways that people can reduce their flexibility and reduce their functional range of motion is by stretching incorrectly. I'm a huge advocate of stretching muscles once they've been warmed up. They've been biomechanically moved, sport-specifically moved in a way that the core temperature of the muscle is optimized. There's a ton of communications that take place via the bloodstream through hormones that actually increases the elasticity of the muscle tissue. This is why a warm-up is so incredibly important. Now, when we get into the idea of isolating a muscle and stretching it, probably one of the most misunderstood stretches is the hamstring stretch. Now, generically, what a lot of people will do is they'll crisscross one leg over the other, and the first thing they'll do is they'll bend over at the waist, lowering their chest down to their knees. Now, I'm going to ask you as politely as I can going forward, don't ever do that stretch again. And I say that very respectfully and humbly because what you're doing is when you're standing on one leg, one of the roles of the hamstring is to stabilize the knee. So here you are, you're standing on one leg, asking a muscle to engage, to stabilize, and then simultaneously elongate. You see where there's a conflict of interest there? So moving forward, please don't ever, while standing up, cross one leg over the other and then lower your chest down to your leg. It's going to be one of those situations where the muscles are going to get a mixed communication and you have a higher risk of tearing something than you do actually elongating the muscle tissue. By the way, when I say tear something, you can tear the attachment, the tendon, or the belly of the muscle tissue itself. When we look at the way to properly stretch your hamstrings, there's one of two that I feel are the most beneficial. The first one would be you can go over to some place where you can put your leg up on a desk or a chair, and what you can do is you can push, make sure that your toes are pointing straight to the sky, make sure your foot on the ground is pointing direct. That squares the hips off. And then what you want to do is just slowly lower your chest down until you feel a little bit of tension. It could come anywhere from your sit bone, right underneath your bum, all the way to the back of your knee. It could be at either end or anywhere in between there. As soon as you feel that little bit of a tug, please stop moving. What you're feeling is inside the Golgi apparatus, inside the muscle spindle cell is what we call the Golgi apparatus. There's a communication system in there that tells the brain, hey, the muscle's getting to its length before it's starting to become dangerously overextended. And the defense mechanism is to pull the origin and the insertion, each attachment, closer together to get the tension out of the belly. Well, if you have the weight of your upper body down and that stretch reflex engages, that's how you end up ripping a tendon and or the belly of the muscle itself. So there's nothing wrong with doing that type of a stretch. The key is just go till you feel the tension at the very beginning. As soon as you feel it starting to flare up, stop, hang out there. Breathe deep for 3 to 5 seconds, preferably deep through your belly, and then see if you can deepen the stretch without there being any discomfort and without that mechanism screaming at you. The next stretch that I think is fantastic for the hamstrings that reduces the risk of injury but increases the functional range of motion is to lay flat on your back. The whole idea here is to get the hamstrings to where where the hamstring is under no load whatsoever. So if you laid it down on your back, depending on your flexibility of your hamstrings, let's just say for illustration's sake, you have one leg down on the ground, the other one is up, and your goal is to try to bring it up to 90 degrees. So if you're laying horizontal on the ground, your goal is to try to get it up to 90 degrees, right? Your leg's here, you're just bringing it up to 90 degrees. However, not everybody has that flexibility, so don't get mad if you're not able to do it. Depending on how far you can bring your leg up off the ground, if you can, just drape your hands underneath your hamstring, and that way you can kind of facilitate bringing it back. But I wouldn't tug on it because once again, you're going to invoke the stretch reflex in the hamstring that runs from the back of the knee up to your sit bones. Now, if you don't have enough flexibility, you can always take a rope, a jump rope, anything that you can put around the arch of your foot, and you can facilitate bringing that back. Now, in a perfect scenario, what you would want to do is you're laying on your back, you want to just bring your leg up as far as you can until you feel that comfortable tightness. You start to get that little stretch reflex talking to you, hang out there for a little bit. That's where holding with your hand or a rope can be somewhat advantageous versus you just using your quadriceps to keep your leg. If you're laying on your back and you're bringing your quads are contracting to bring your leg up, the goal here is we don't want to be overloading the quadriceps. Our goal is to isolate and stretch the hamstrings. So those are the two best things that you can do, in my opinion, to stretch the hamstring. Reduces the risk of an injury, reduces the risk of a tear, and at the same time increasing your range of motion, sport-specific range of motion. Very, very important. If there's anything I've said in this video that's created more questions than answering, frustration that you might have relevant to stretching, as always, please feel free to reach out to me and my team. contact@coachrobb.com. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for watching. We deeply appreciate it. Every day we put up a new video here on YouTube answering your questions. So I hope that you'll like, turn on the notifications, subscribe, and we hope to see you sometime tomorrow.